This week, we're in Annapolis. It's a former stopover in the race and arguably America's sailing capital. It's also the home of Farr Yacht Design, and the other week we had a team down there speaking to Shaughnessy about the Volvo Ocean 65 build process.
In order to produce 8 to 10 boats for the race, obviously the build itself needed to be broken into several components so that it could be delivered on that sort of time scale. So we have the hulls and some of the early internal structure being built at Persico in Italy. We have the decks fully finished with their hardware being built at Multiplast in France. And we have the remaining internal structure components coming from Decision in Switzerland. And all those components are arriving at Green Marine for assembly, sea trialing and launching. So there's an enormous amount of coordination that occurs between that, an enormous amount of input coming from the various teams. So as designers, you try to work within the comfort level of each of the builders and try to help them coordinate the process, and most of all ensure that it's a one design. So when these components arrive, they've all come with their checks and controls, and when they go together we have a really well-conceived product that's assembled together into the world's best one design. So it's a great process.
I'm inside the deck mould of Groupama. Now they're the winners of the last edition of the Volvo Ocean Race. This is the hull mould, and it was built here at Multiplast in France. But this time around, for the One Design 65, the hull mould is going to be built at Persico in Italy. And a few days ago, we were down there to see the whole process. It's pretty interesting, and I even got to get my hands a little bit dirty. So anytime you build something really big, for example, a One Design 65-foot boat that has to race the whole way around the world, there's a lot of work to do. But in amongst all of that work, there's some key days that stand out. And we're back at Persico in Bergamo, Italy, and we're here for the Mould Infusion, which is the next stage. It's quite a complicated process to get your head around. Hopefully we're going to be able to show you the whole process and explain it. So Ben, what's going on here?
We've got the barrel here full of resin, and all these different taps are going to different areas on the boat where obviously we've got a vacuum over these places. We're going to pull the resin through.
So it's quite a critical moment. Everybody was feeling the tension from one side, maybe more me feeling the tension.
By this point, I was starting to get a bit confused. So I decided to try a different strategy to explain the process. So what we have here is my representation of the One Design 65-foot boat. Obviously it's a bit rough. So then what happens is we cover it in this carbon fibre here, you sheet, and this is what they call biaxial. This is a first smoother layer that's going to go on there. And then we're going to go layer after layer. And then this last piece is pretty important. This is what they call the flow media. This green stuff has a sort of a thickness to it, and that allows them to create a vacuum underneath the bag, but it's also the medium that will be used to make the resin flow into the mould. And then the next thing that's going to come over is the bag. You see the bag come over like this, and the bag's stuck along the edges like this with double-sided, very thick and strong double-sided tape. And this bag's much stronger than it looks. So now I'm standing at the stern of the boat, the back of the boat, looking forward. Obviously the thing's upside down, and I can see the shape of the boat. I can see the resin moving down towards me very slowly. Okay, so I'm just finishing up the bag here. It's very important to make sure that this bag is a really good seal so that no air can get in, because we're going to suck this down and create a vacuum. Obviously to create a vacuum we have to suck the air out, so I'm using this fitting here. Make a little tiny, put one, this side of the fitting goes in the bag there, this bit lives on the outside, and then this bit will just screw down under that through the hole, and the air will get sucked out through the hole. So screw that down like that, and then put this on here like that, and that's what we'll use to just suck the air out. See the bag starting to suck down. So as you can see, the bag's working pretty well, but obviously the most important step that I left out on this one was mold infusion, because now that we've made a vacuum on here, we have to get the resin in there somehow, and that's what we've been doing next door. So I've actually got one of the fittings here that we use to send the resin in, and I'm going to fit this to the bag, although I'm not going to send any resin in, obviously, because we don't want to make any more of a mess than we've already made this morning. So what we'll do, we'll just make a tiny nick in the thing here, and then I'm going to put that on top of the nick like that. Push that down. That should stay like that. Then I'm going to start the compressor again. This bag, I have to admit, is not the best. When this is done by a professional boat builder, you wouldn't hear any of that leaking air. I'm hearing air leaking in everywhere, so it's a little bit of a problem. But obviously this is not for real, and the pros would do it much better than I ever could. But you get the idea. As you can imagine, I enjoyed that. And the next stop is France's Sailing Valley, where we'll be checking out the deck mould at Multiplast. Well, this looks pretty familiar to me. This is a piece of biaxial carbon fibre. It's similar to the stuff we were using at Persico, but the big difference is that the resin is already in this one, whereas you may remember at Persico the carbon fibre is dry and we were forcing the resin into it. So the guys here at Multiplast are just laying big sheets of this all over the deck mould, and then they'll put a vacuum bag on it and turn up the heat, and we should have a very, very solid deck mould. Okay, I think we're done. Well, for now that is. It's been a really, really busy couple of days. I hope we've been able to explain some pretty complicated processes to you. I know I've really managed to learn a lot. It's time to head back to Alicante, but before I do, I think I'm just going to go and check out this monster.